In the 3rd century, there were only 4 superpowers on Earth: Rome, Persia, China, and one you've never heard of. An African empire so powerful that a Persian prophet declared it equal to Rome itself. 4 great kingdoms. That's what Mani wrote. And the 3rd one? It wasn't Egypt. It wasn't Carthage. It was Aksum. The Kingdom of Aksum controlled 2.5 million square kilometers at its peak. That's larger than Western Europe. And yet most people have never even heard its name. Let me show you exactly what's really happening here. This isn't some minor trading post we're talking about. Aksum minted its own gold coins, found everywhere from Rome to India. They built stone towers 9 stories high without mortar. They conquered kingdoms across 2 continents. And they did something no other African state had done before. They created their own written language that's still used today. Here's what nobody tells you. While Rome was crumbling and Europe entered the Dark Ages, Aksum was thriving. They were the ones keeping international trade alive. They were the bridge between 3 continents. The heart of this empire sat in what's now northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. But at its height, Aksum stretched from Sudan to Yemen. From the Red Sea coast deep into the African interior, here's the key: they controlled the Red Sea. Every ship sailing between Rome and India had to pass through waters. Aksum dominated. Every merchant trading African ivory, Indian spices, or Arabian incense paid tribute to Aksumite power. Their main port was Adulis, and this single city became one of the busiest trading hubs in the ancient world. Gold from the African interior, ivory and rhinoceros horn, frankincense and myrrh for Roman temples, exotic animals that Roman emperors paid fortunes for. Let me show you something that'll blow your mind. Aksum didn't just participate in trade, they revolutionized it. They were the first sub-Saharan African state to mint coins, not simple tokens, sophisticated currency in bronze, silver, and gold, with inscriptions in their own script. Those coins have been found in archaeological sites across 3 continents, in Roman Egypt, in Persian territories, as far east as Sri Lanka. This wasn't regional power, this was a global empire. Here's what nobody tells you. King Ezana, who ruled in the 4th century, wasn't just some tribal chief. He commanded armies that crushed the kingdom of Kush, ending a civilization that had lasted 1,000 years. The Aksumites built a navy that dominated the Red Sea for centuries. They didn't just defend their coasts, they projected power across the water. Around 520 CE, something happened that proves just how powerful they were. Yemen, across the Red Sea, had a king persecuting Christians. So what did Aksum do? King Caleb assembled a fleet, crossed the Red Sea with a full invasion force, and conquered the entire Himyarite kingdom of Yemen. Let that sink in. An African empire launched an amphibious invasion of the Arabian Peninsula, and they won. Yemen became an Aksumite vassal state for decades. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. In 325 CE, King Ezana converted to Christianity. Not just personally, he made it the state religion. This made Aksum the very first Christian state in history. Not Rome, not Byzantium, Aksum. They didn't just adopt Christianity, they transformed it. They created the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which still exists today. They developed their own religious texts, their own traditions. And they did something unprecedented. They put the cross on their coins. The first nation ever to do so. Here's the key. This wasn't just about religion. This connected them to the Byzantine Empire. It gave them diplomatic leverage with Rome. It opened trade routes to Christian Europe that their competitors couldn't access. The Aksumites developed the Ge'ez alphabet, one of the oldest continuously used writing systems in Africa. It's still used in Ethiopia today. They created a written literary tradition that recorded their history, their laws, their religious texts. Let me show you what they built. The stelae of Aksum, massive obelisks carved from single pieces of granite. The largest one that still stands, over 23 meters tall, carved to look like a 9-story palace, with false doors and windows in perfect detail. And it's solid stone. They did this in the 3rd century CE, without modern tools, without iron machinery. They quarried these stones, carved them with intricate detail, and erected them as monuments to their kings. Here's what they don't want you to understand. Aksum was the middleman for the entire ancient world. Roman merchants couldn't safely travel to India. Indian merchants couldn't easily reach Europe. But Aksumite merchants, they traveled everywhere. They knew the monsoon winds. They knew when to sail to India, when to sail to Rome. Their ships carried Chinese silk, Indian spices, African gold, and Roman glassware. They spoke multiple languages. They dealt in multiple currencies. Byzantine Emperor Justinian himself asked King Caleb to increase silk purchases from India because the land routes through Persia had become too dangerous. Think about that. The Roman Emperor was depending on an African kingdom for access to Asian goods. So why haven't you heard of them? Here's what happened. In the 7th century, everything changed. Islam rose in Arabia. Arab forces swept through the Middle East, conquered Egypt, and took control of the Red Sea. Suddenly, Aksum was cut off. Their trading partners disappeared behind hostile borders. Their port of Adulis was raided. The trade routes that had made them wealthy for 6 centuries were now controlled by Islamic caliphates. They lost their territories in Yemen to Persian invasion, then to Muslim conquest. Environmental changes hit hard, droughts and soil degradation from centuries of intensive agriculture. The capital city had to be abandoned. Here's the truth they never teach you. Aksum didn't just vanish. It transformed. The royal court moved inland, into the Ethiopian highlands. They adapted, they survived, and they preserved their Christian identity surrounded by Islamic powers for the next 1,000 years. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church today uses the same Ge'ez script developed in ancient Aksum. The royal line claimed descent from Aksumite kings until 1974. The traditions, the language, the faith all survived. But here's what really matters. Aksum proves something that contradicts everything we're taught about African history. While Europe was in decline, an African empire was thriving. While Rome fell, Aksum rose. They built monuments that still stand. They created institutions that still function. They forged a civilization that lasted 8 centuries. 4 great kingdoms ruled the 3rd century world. You learned about 3 of them. The 4th one, the African superpower that controlled trade between continents, that conquered kingdoms across the Red Sea, that created a Christian state before Europe did. They erased it from your textbooks. But now you know. The Kingdom of Aksum, the forgotten superpower. And its story changes everything you thought you knew about ancient Africa.